It's time for episode 286 of the 3 Point Podcast, presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer. We also want to thank our local friends, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We're going to have a fun prep spotlight again tonight as we're going to catch up with special guest Perry Rambler head coach Jeff Bott. He has his Ramblers into the playoffs for the first time in school history other than the COVID year, which everybody made it. So congratulations to Jeff, and we'll be talking in depth with him. But as we always like to do, we like to play a little catch up. And guys, I just got to tell you, I was just hyped to the negative that I had to go to a wedding on October 21st, the night of the Michigan State game, a wedding in Traverse City. I will say this before I get into, the Michigan game and my viewpoint on that from being up north. We've talked about it before, but this state of Michigan, I mean, it is so beautiful. When you go up north at this time of year, it was perfect. It was a sunny day, Saturday, driving up there, and the colors were in full force. And it was just magical, as you like to say, Jared.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things like, you talked about who's going to schedule or plan a wedding on a Saturday or a Sunday, maybe during football season. But at the same time, when you talk about how it looks in northern Michigan and really all over Michigan during the fall, I mean, it is a nice time of year for a wedding. Sometimes better than the summer, because sometimes in the summer, it's just hot and humid and everyone's sweating. So, yeah, it's kind of tough especially that it fell on Michigan State weekend, but nothing better than being up in Traverse City in the fall.
Yeah, it all turned out absolutely perfect because I didn't miss a close nail biter game. We'll get into that a little later, but by the time I was getting the halftime scores from you guys, I thought, well, I'm going to just enjoy the rest of the wedding. I don't have to worry about the game. So that was what I was up to this last week. I had a good time, and congratulations to the couple.
For sure.
I'm surprised you weren't a little bit more kind of crazy about the fact you're missing Michigan State. To be honest, like everybody, that's like the number one complaint. Oh, I hate fall weddings. Dude. I mean, who gives a crap that you missed this Michigan State game? Listen, I loved every second of it. I soaked it up. I mean, that sweet feeling I had watching the game, it wouldn't be any different watching it on replay. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. I think you were maybe being a little bit of a baby with the complaints about the fall time wedding. I mean, it is what it is. Unless it's like Michigan, Ohio State, or a Michigan State game from 2021 where it's like matchup of two top 10 teams. You're fine. Just schedule the wedding, and people like Ted will have to deal with the consequences.
Aren't you like Mr. Anti-wedding though? You like hate weddings?
I hate weddings, but whether it's summer, whether it's spring, whether it's fall, don't really matter to me, man.
Right.
It is what it is. I hate it all the same.
I know, I get what you're saying. I mean, and it could be kind of cool too. Like if depending on the venue, if there was a TV on at the bar at the reception, and there's a
there
group
wasn't.
Yeah. Well, if there's not, then that's different. But I was going to say, like, if there's a group of friends watching the game at the reception,
right?
That can be kind of fun too. But
and Ted, you're kind of calling the kettle the pot calling the kettle black. Is that the term?
Go ahead.
I mean, your daughter's wedding was week 1 of college football. I literally remember it. It was an adult only wedding. I was the youngest person to make the cut at about 17 years old. Everybody else is drunk. I was in a room next door watching like Auburn versus somebody else on some little bar TV. So just be careful with these aspersions you're throwing around, because I know you had a lot of planning to do with that wedding. So
like absolutely zero.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got your chance to say what you said, but
right. He's been holding on to this for 8 years.
Oh, I mean, it was a great wedding, but I'll be honest, I was in hell, man.
Yeah,
just because I'm a college football fanatic. I was missing it.
So. And you were the young kid there. You were the youngest that made the cut.
Yeah. It was still a great time, but that was just, as the one person who was sober in the entire place, it was a weird spot to be in.
There's only so much hokey pokey you can do when you're underage and no one's slipping you any drinks. But
right.
I went over to
I was going to say, Jared, you don't have a story this week? You seem to
Oh,
always
I
have
mean,
the
I've been,
story.
like I said, I normally have something, but nothing really this week. Just been kind of working. I mean, it's been kind of a crazy, hectic little time. We actually went up to Bear Lake for a story that'll be airing during our state finals. So I just was up in the Traverse City area, just like you said. And then I'll second what you said. I mean,
Yeah.
it's God's country up there. It's freaking beautiful. That's probably my first time I've ever really been up there in the fall time, and the colors can't be overstated. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, spectacular.
Yeah, the weather. I mean, unless you're getting one of those rainy stretches where it's cold and rainy, if you're getting a good stretch of Michigan fall weather,
Right.
you really can't beat it.
Do you get that down there in North Carolina? Maybe another 3 weeks down the road. Do you get colors? Because it's kind of mountainy down there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely later. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I know my parents usually come down around this time, or because my daughter's birthday's at the beginning of November, so they come down around then usually.
Mhm.
And they always say it's funny because when they're leaving Michigan, it's like you said, like peak colors, and it's just starting to turn down here. So it's just funny how we're always a little behind with that.
Matt, weren't you at Jaden Daniels' game on Friday? What was that Friday? So for Jaden Daniels, for those who don't know, Michigan, that's his name, right?
Jaden Davis, but
Jaden Davis. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I knew I screwed up something on
Daniels, he's the quarterback at LSU.
for LSU. Yeah. Jaden Davis, who is one of the top recruits coming into Michigan next year, quarterback out of Charlotte. I mean, what was that atmosphere like, and what was your scouting report of him?
It was pretty cool. Yeah. So he goes to one of the private schools here in Charlotte, one of the biggest private schools here. And so I've been saying all along since he committed, I'm like, I got to make it to one of these games. But usually Friday nights, I'm either working or, I got to be home with the kids or, whatever. So I finally had a chance to make this game. And part of the reason why I made it out this week is so his school, Providence Day, is number one in the state of North Carolina. And they were playing the number one team out of Georgia, who is also a private school. So they play in the same league. So it was a league game, number one team in North Carolina, number one team in Georgia. Like you said, Jaden Davis, he's depending on what recruiting service you look at, he's basically like a top 5 quarterback in next year's class going to Michigan. So I was like, I got to go watch this guy. I was able to get a media credential. And so I could be like right down on the field. And he's a stud. I mean, these two teams were, he has an offensive lineman that's the number one kid overall in next year's class. He has one of his receivers is going to Michigan with him. He has another receiver going somewhere else. The other team has like 10 or 12 guys that are ranked in the top 200 or, around that. So 2 just completely stacked teams, awesome facility, right? Kind of in a super, super nice area in Charlotte. So it was a really cool experience, but the kid's a stud. I mean, you can tell, he's a high schooler. So I'll be curious to see like how his development is, but I mean, he's got a cannon. He's not much of a runner. I would say JJ McCarthy is a lot more of a runner than he is. But he's got a cannon and he can throw a nice deep ball, and he was hitting dudes all over the place. So
how tall is he, Matt? Would you say?
My height, only like 6'1". So
6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, a little shorter than McCarthy, but he can play.
Was the environment here's what I've noticed living in Detroit and covering a lot of these Detroit games. When you have these kind of loaded teams and a lot of them Catholic or a lot of them these prep schools, the crowd is normally pretty blah. And it almost feels more of like kind of like a college game rather than, that high school with the band and all that. Was it kind of a weak environment in that sense, or what did you make of it?
It was. I mean, it was, there was a lot of people there, but it didn't feel like your cool local high school game where the whole community is there and, those kind of things. There was just media all over the place.
Right.
A lot of the people were just walking around, barely watching the game. And, there was a lot of energy. Really, the opposing team, the visiting team coming from Georgia, they were more rowdy than the team here in Charlotte, because they traveled up here, I guess. So that was a little surprising. I was like, this doesn't feel like number one team versus number one team, but it was still cool. It's still high school football.
Who ended up winning?
The team from Georgia won. Their quarterback's only a sophomore, and he's probably going to end up being like top 5 in his class. So it was Providence Day. It was their first loss this year, so they're probably still going to make a run to a state title. But it was cool. Good
stuff. Media man down on the sidelines. Do you have flashbacks of Fox 17?
And then I wanted to try and get right up there and catch see a touchdown pass right in my face, but that's fun.
Well, that's good stuff. Well,
Yep.
speaking of high school football, we're going to get the prep spotlight brought to you by Jacobs Insurance Agency underway next, and we'll talk with the Perry Rambler head coach Jeff Bott coming up.
All right, guys, let's get the prep spotlight going. As always, the prep spotlight is brought to you by the great people at Jacobs Insurance. Head over there if you have any insurance needs and want to talk to those fine folks over there. We love the people at Jacobs Insurance. And today we're recording on Sunday, Selection Sunday for high school football playoffs in Michigan. It's always an exciting time, and especially for a story like the Perry Ramblers making the playoffs for the first time. Everyone made it the COVID year 2020, but officially the first time in program history. Super cool story. Head coach Jeff Bott is joining us here. Appreciate you taking some time out on Selection Sunday.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're, we Corona guys, and we've interviewed a bunch of other coaches from the area, and we follow high school football over the state, but maybe our bread and butter is a little more in mid-Michigan. So when we come across stories like this, Durand last year was a cool story. Chesaning this year, we talked to their head coach, and, among others, we love to just get some background and talk to you guys. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording. You guys had a watch party to see who you guys ended up with. You ended up matched up with Pewamo, Westphalia. What's the vibe right now, around town with your team, at school, just everything with the guys? It's got to be super exciting, right?
It is. Everyone's excited. I mean, this has been something this town has been wanting forever. It's, we've fallen short in my tenure. And I mean, there's been a lot of great teams that came through Perry that with the old system, they didn't qualify, and they were darn good football teams. Right now, I'd say everyone's on cloud nine. I mean, we're very happy.
What is it like when you do finally kind of break through? Was that kind of your guys' goal this entire year heading into fall camp? Was, hey, let's be the team that makes history here at Perry. Let's make the playoffs. And how did it feel once you kind of finally got the word today? All right, we're officially in. What was that initial moment like when you officially got confirmation?
Well, it did. You're right. It did start back in the summer, and we've kind of had a don't talk about it mentality because things have not always gone our way, and we've come up short. Had several opportunities, and just it didn't work out for us. And these seniors this year, they didn't want to hide from anything. And that group of leadership we have, and until you see and hear our name up there on the screen, something not going to go right, something weird going to happen point wise when I wake up this morning. But it was great seeing that up there, and it feels like about 10 million pounds is lifted off my shoulders and whatnot. And the kids, I mean, they're on cloud nine right now.
Yeah, coach, it's just an awesome achievement to get to the playoffs. Give us a little bit about your background, your journey to Perry. I know you've been there now as head coach, 9 years, but what about before that?
So I'm a graduate of Hazlitt High School, played at Hazlitt. And as soon as I got done with school in '95, I started coaching for Charlie Adluski. He was my coach. My senior year, he came down, and I probably should have been a brain surgeon as long as I was in college because I kept messing around with coaching. But I, started coaching at 19, 47 now. Feels like I've been doing it forever. And I was 17 years there on staff for football and basketball. And Rob Porter, a good friend of mine, came over and took the Perry job. And he said, hey, you interested? My family's from Perry. I'm one of the few bots not to graduate from Perry. So, I took a leap, came over there and came over here, and here we sit now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. It's always fun to hear the journey stories of coaches. Again, I brought up Matt Walter, who's coaching at Chesaning. He was way up in the UP for a while, right, and then he's bounced around. So, it's always cool to hear that. And speaking of Perry and the journey and everything like that, you kind of brought it up being on cloud nine and, the community and all the support at your selection party tonight. What's it like around, looking up in the stands and seeing the support from the community, and how big is that for the kids? I have a couple nephews who are on the team right now. So, I'm definitely keeping tabs on what you guys are doing. But, you mentioned the community and how excited they are. They've been waiting for this, but how big and how special do you think it is for them to be able to go up to a school like Pewamo, Westphalia and watch a playoff football game for Perry?
I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I thought it was crazy when I was still coaching at Hazlitt. We came over and played Perry. We were in districts together in basketball, and we walked in. It was a district semi game, and I was like, "Good Lord, half the town's here." And we kind of chuckled at it. This town it doesn't matter what the sport is.
Yeah.
We'll go to summer league for basketball. We'll go to 7-on-7s, and you look at the sideline. There's 35, 40 people sitting in chairs. I mean, they love their sports, and I would venture a guess that the visiting stands are going to be full over in PW on Friday night. I know, like I said, the temperature in town is everyone's wanted this for so long, and it's, here we are. And I'm going to guess there won't be a bunch of people left in town when the game goes off Friday night.
Before we get into maybe previewing your upcoming matchup on Friday, who are some of the key contributors you guys have had this season? For a lot of our listeners who maybe don't follow Perry football, who are some of those key guys you want to kind of give some shine to?
Sure. We our on offense, our quarterback leads us, Austin Poyer. He's had a real good season for us so far. He's amassed 26 touchdowns total on offense through the ground and through the air. He's got a little over 1,600 total yards. He's matured so much as a quarterback for us. He used to be one-dimensional. I just can run it. And he's put some good touch on the football this year. Our offensive line, I mean, they're kind of unsung heroes. I mean, their name never gets read. It never gets said. Anything between, they know when they give up a sack. That's about the only time people think about the offensive line. But that group up there, Tanner Selbig and Cameron Duty, whatnot, and Gabe Reeder, our seniors, are kind of leading the way there. Defensively, again, another name. We only have 15 kids on the team, so we kind of you get a lot of names twice. But Cameron Duty's been our middle linebacker since he was a freshman. And he's now a senior, and he's over 100 tackles. And another senior for us is Tim Hall at safety, and he's right up there as well.
It's been kind of an interesting journey, as Matt liked to say there. I mean, you got 15 guys on the team, so you're low on numbers on the varsity. Your football stadium is going under construction, so you play your first 2 home games at Nicanese Stadium in Corunna. You put together a schedule that was an independent schedule, which obviously worked out to your advantage to get you enough points to get to the playoffs. And then looking at the future, you're joining a very, very tough conference in the Central Michigan Athletic Conference. Just some thoughts on all that.
It's one thing I've hung my hat on is we've always had varsity JV football in my 9 years. I mean, when I took this job, we were 550 kids. Well, we're 290 now. Wow. And our numbers are low. And the league is a good fit for us size-wise. Obviously, we are walking into a hornet's nest as far as football programs wise. And it's such storied traditions there. There won't be a Friday night off. I mean, we left a league that had Olivet, Lakewood. So, I mean, but there were other teams that, we knew we'd be in the football game, if we played. But the CMAC is a very, very proud league, and they're a very talented small town sports league. And it was unfortunate we couldn't get in, but like you said, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I was able to work with the schedule a little bit to get us some points that would have got us there. But it's good looking football. I mean, our district is the CMAC. Yeah. With Langsburg and Bath, PW and Perry, and it's and I'm sure that happens other regions and whatnot. But it kind of struck me as funny as I was driving in here.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. And speaking of exciting, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but getting to head up to a school like PW and play a playoff game. I mean, anyone who doesn't know that's one of the more storied programs really in mid-Michigan, maybe in the whole state, with their recent success, 4 times they've won the state title. They've just had a ton of success up there. So it's almost like, Clash of the Titans, you got PW and then first time playoff team in Perry. What's going to kind of be, I mean, it's all new, you just saw your matchup and everything. You're just about to go watch film after you get out of here with us. What's going to be the message you tell your kids? Like, hey man, just soak this up. We're going up there to play one of the best teams in the state, take advantage of the opportunity. Or what do you think is going to be the message that you send to your players?
We with our goals with making the playoffs, we've checked one box off. Another box for us would be winning 6 games for the first time in 30 years in program history. And obviously checking the box off of having a chance to compete with PW. I mean, this is our first time playing in quite a few years. We know what we're in for. I joked with the kids, hey, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it right.
Yep.
So we get to head up there, and I mean, I've always admired that program from afar, even when I was at Hazlitt.
Sure.
They just do it the right way. They're tough kids. They play football and they get after it.
Yeah.
And I may not have a bunch of kids, but I know Friday night when they strap it on, they're not gonna back down from anyone. So I mean, wherever it ends up, we'll be on that field and we're gonna get after it.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, we're as you can tell, we're huge high school supporters, especially in this area, and we wish you nothing but the best in the playoffs against PW and down the road in the future. It's been a lot of fun catching up with you, hearing a little bit about Perry Rambler football, and again, thanks for the time. Get to the film, and good luck to you on Friday night.
Thank you, guys. Again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time with me.
All righty.
Thanks, Coach.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys, that was good stuff there with Perry head coach Jeff Bott. But as we always like to do, we like to bring you up to speed on what happened and what's going forward. And last week, Corunna finished off a perfect 9-0 regular season, 31-7 over Armada. I love the Argus Press headline, by the way. Corunna sinks Armada, kind of a take on Armada. Wyatt Bauer, though, man, just we talk about him all the time. 18 of 26, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns, all 3 to his twin brother, Tarek. Tarek had 8 catches for that total. Wyatt's would have been higher. He actually did have over 300 yards passing in the game. And Tarek had 204 himself. Jaden Eddington, 10 tackles, 4 TFLs. I mean, they wrapped up the season, and now they get ready for a real tough district, even though they're hosting it.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, before we talk a little bit about that district and some of the other playoff matchups, from the sounds of it, listening into you, Casey and Bart, it was a bit of a battle versus Armada. Maybe like you guys said in the broadcast, and maybe has been said elsewhere, maybe the type of game that Corunna needed heading into the playoffs. The running clock every game was becoming a story. Starters never playing in the fourth quarter. So maybe it's not necessarily like an eye opener, but like the type of game Corunna needed heading into the playoffs, because that's the kind of games they're going to be seeing if they want to go farther in the playoffs. So still really cool for them to wrap up a 9-0 season for sure.
Well, I think Coach Herrick has a few things to work on too. I mean, it was a sloppy game. I'm just going to tell you right now, sloppy. A lot of questionable calls. There was a lot of feistiness. So I mean, it was just one of those nights.
One of my buddies who was at the game, texting updates and stuff, he said, "Yeah, it was nice of Armada to bring their own referees too." So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Well, welcome to high school football. It's shaky at best.
You're right.
Pretty much anytime you run them refs out. So
yeah, like I said in the broadcast, though, I would like to see, and again, I don't want to be critical, they're having a heck of a time even getting referees, but call the obvious stuff, but anything that's somewhat borderline, let them play it out. That's my viewpoint. Some of the other key games: Chesapeake over Carrollton, 44-6. Indians, their 8th straight win after losing that home opener against Bath. New Lothrop, again, they've been flying under the radar this year, maybe not anymore now that we're going to start the playoffs. 8-1 on the season. They pounded Division 4 Lake Fenton, who's also in the playoffs, 38-0. Jack Kalhanik, the quarterback, had 5 of the 6 Hornet TDs in that one. Ovid Elsie over Standish Sterling, 28-27. The Marauders have made it. And who should I talk about in that game, Jared?
Trey Stokar, give them to us.
312 yards, all 4 touchdowns. Not bad, huh?
I will say the New Lothrop scores, going back there for a second, I mean, they are just getting better and better. Tell me if that surprises you with a Clint Galvis-led team. Big time. I mean, that's an eye-opening score. They beat a D4 playoff opponent, basically running clocked them.
Right.
I mean, them and Ithaca, it should be a really fun D8 matchup. Ted, who are you going to be following at the station if New Lothrop makes a run and so does Corunna?
Yeah, well, that's up to station management. I think right now, things are looking pretty promising on the Cavalier front. We've had some first-time advertisers, quite a handful have decided to hop on board. So it'll all be officially announced tomorrow. But it all depends if teams keep winning too. We have to
Right.
reshuffle every week on who's
Right.
continuing on. Uh, Other games in eight-man football, Byron got their first win over Vesterberg, 36-18, and Morris over Matabella, 46-6. The O's playing their best ball here late in the season, heading into the eight-man playoffs. And one final question, non-football related, in cross country in the Shiawassee County Championship at Corunna High School, Owasso came away with two individual champions. On the boys' side, Trojan Simon Erforth took the medalist honors, and on the girls' race, Emma Crandall raced to first place honors. So congratulations to them. But let's slide
Nice.
things back over to football for a moment and talk briefly here about the upcoming playoffs. This is Selection Sunday where we're recording.
Yep.
Got the matchups. I think we just start right in Division 5 with 8-0 Hamady at 9-0 Corunna, and then Williamston, middle of the road season at 6-3, playing on Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, who comes in with some pretty impressive victories. That sets up to be, if all goes according to Hoyle, quite a district championship.
I mean, that was, we talked to Jason Hutton about it last week, and I feel like maybe, some of the other guests that we've had on have talked about, obviously, the two Grand Rapids teams over there, Catholic Central and West Catholic. They're in a region over there. They'll meet up in a regional championship if it shakes out like that. And then, like Jason Hutton told us last week, and we've talked about with Notre Dame Prep, it almost feels like if it shakes out, if Corunna is able to get by Hamady, if Notre Dame Prep's able to get by Williamston, it almost feels like that Corunna Notre Dame Prep game is going to be a winner gets to Ford Field. You don't want to get ahead of yourselves, but
right.
that feels like that way with the seeding. I mean, with the top four teams, those are the top four teams. And Jared, you were looking at Notre Dame Prep. They have some, like you said, Ted, they have some very impressive wins on their schedule. Don't sleep on Hamady, though. I mean, I remember Sam Ali and Brandon Green, they were talking about Hamady. Maybe not the strongest schedule. Probably what their best win is over Bentley. Otherwise, maybe not the biggest noteworthy schedule. That's why I think they were a good 20 points below Corunna in the whole playoff points thing. So, but they can put up points. They have a very big point differential. They've scored like over 300 points and only given up about 40 or 50 or something. So
very fast team.
Very fast. Hamady's going to give Corunna a run for their money too.
Looks like from the little bit of quick research I did on Notre Dame Pontiac Prep, looks like they have quite the stud quarterback. So it'll be a really nice matchup between him and Wyatt Bauer. Looks like he has more touchdowns than incompletions on the season, and he had 6 total touchdowns against Gladwin, who won Division 5 last year.
Right.
They beat him by 30. So you're going to find out what Corunna's made of in a couple weeks here. And Hamady, you mentioned it. I mean, not exactly the best round one draw you want for what Corunna is, basically the number 2 overall seed, and you have to play an unbeaten team. But it is what it is. I mean, if you have Ford Field aspirations, you got to beat teams like that. So it's going to be a really fun district. District of death, some are calling it. So
yeah. Also,
like I said, the West Catholic, that was going to be one of the big ones, is West Catholic Central building over there, but they're not in the same district; they're in the same region. So they both should be able to get out of their district. And if it plays out that it's Notre Dame Prep in Corunna in 2 weeks, basically at the Nick, man, there's going to be a lot of electricity at that game.
Yeah, Corunna they definitely got the draw because they'll have 3 home games.
Yep.
If they can continue on and win. And some other key division matchups, Division 6, Central Montcalm at Chesaning, the Chesaning Indians story. I mean, we've been on it. We had their head coach on, Matt Walter, on the podcast. 8-1. They slipped up in week 1, probably didn't know what they had. The game got away from them just a little bit to Bath. Could have been a 9-0 season for Chesaning. And I mean, they got a stud running back and obviously good coaching, and could set up to be a Mid-Michigan Athletic Conference district championship as Ida at Ovid Elsie's on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, that's always exciting when you see things kind of shake out like that.
And of course, we talked a little bit about Division 8 off air, but Michigan Lutheran Seminary at New Lothrop, Clint Galvis has his team all of a sudden just crank it into gear. They also could have had a 9-0 season. They gave up an interception right at the end of that Chesaning game, or they could have maybe pulled that one out. But what a district. Fowler and Ithaca's on the other side of the bracket for Division 8, man. That's about as tough a district as you can have.
And what I think I saw too, Ubley is in that region also, or in the district, and
they're a for real team.
They're for real. I know our friends over at Thumb Tailgater Sports over there. They hype up Ubley quite a bit. So and it would be Ithaca, New Lothrop in round 2, right? So that would be a heck of a matchup. So it is definitely cool seeing some of these shake out. I know Morris they're having to go over to Deckerville. Some of those like lower divisions, you get some really cool, like kind of like random matchups sometimes with, where they have to travel or whatever, but it's definitely a fun time.
Right on. Well, we're looking forward to it, and we'll know by the time this podcast drops where the cast will be for that Friday night opener. I have a hunch, but it'll be officially announced on Monday. So let's move on and talk about other football. Well, there was a little game over in East Lansing that I think we might have a few thoughts on that, and then the Detroit Lions at Baltimore. We'll have our commentary on those coming up right after this.
Check out the Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center in the Now building on the campus of Memorial Healthcare. Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center includes locker rooms, private showers, steam rooms, a sauna, a lap pool, and more, including a raised track for walking and running with views of the entire Memorial campus and surrounding area. Personally, I love it, man. Sunday, Saturday morning, get in there, get a good workout in, hit the sauna up, and I also do the steam room. So it's a perfect spot. I mean, I think it's only $12 for a day pass, but for those of you who are looking to join for a winter membership, it's up to 15% off for your membership when it's paid in full. Memorial Healthcare strives to bring healthcare and wellness together, servicing patient needs from diagnosis to treatment to rehab and beyond. For more details, go online at www.memorialhealthcare.org or call 989-720-CARE. That's 989-720-2273.
All right, guys, you heard me talking about whining being at a wedding because I missed that game. Well, I didn't miss a whole heck of a lot other than a just complete devastation of Michigan State, 49-0. You guys had a chance to watch it live and up close and personal. I caught the replay today. I did DVR it, but just some thoughts on the Wolverines right now and also the Spartans. I mean, two teams in opposite directions, obviously.
I mean, that's saying it lightly. I think it was a type of game, the exact game. I said this in our instant reaction video, the exact way that Michigan had to play that game. Because, it's an in-state rivalry. We've talked about it so many times. You never know how these games are going to play out. Michigan State could have came out and played the game of their lives. Rocky Lombardi throwing 400 yards, all over the place. It could have been something like that. Michigan just needed to come out, punch them in the mouth, and basically take all the wind out of their sails. And, oh, man, did they. I mean, honestly, from kickoff, you could just tell this was a varsity team versus a freshman team. I mean, McCarthy was doing anything he wanted. They barely even had to run the ball. I mean, Blake Corum didn't even really have like a huge day because like they were just moving the ball so easily. The defense just completely made Hauser and the rest of the Michigan State offense look pitiful. And I'm not trying to pile on. That's really what it is. Michigan State they're in a bad spot. And, I'm not trying to pile on, but I'm very curious to see what they do because the roster is bad. The coaching staff is not very good. And are they going to clean house and try and just make a big splash hire and hope to get some transfer portal stuff and, I don't know, because if you watch that game, those teams are on two completely different levels. And it doesn't seem like Michigan State has anything coming here in the near future. That's enough about the Spartans. Michigan State is on, or Michigan's on another level. I mean, yeah, it was Michigan State and they're down, but the way McCarthy's playing, the way the defense is playing, they can definitely win a national title.
Michigan, I have no complaints with that team. They, in my opinion, we both saw Penn State. I said this at the start of the year when everyone was going goo goo gaga over Ohio State after that Notre Dame win. I thought the same thing then. I think the same thing now. I haven't been impressed with them. In the best part of the whole Ohio State Penn State matchup upcoming, you had people saying Drew Aller was the best quarterback in the Big Ten. He looked horrible. Look, he said it himself. I sucked. He said that holding back tears. Michigan was trouncing Ohio State when they had CJ Stroud, who, by the way, has looked incredible in the NFL. So I'm not even, we don't even need to necessarily preview those matchups coming up. I can't wait for those games. We have the best quarterback. We have the best defense. We have the best offensive line. All phases of the game were better than both those teams. So I can't wait for those games. They're going to be a couple bludgeonings like we saw last night. I said it in my instant reaction. A sweet win. I really wish I had a Mel Tucker cigar to smoke after that one. It felt so good with all the bullshit we've been dealing with the NCAA, which is coming across like a witch hunt. Whether or not this is a legitimate investigation or not, the fact that the NCAA has come after Michigan and Harbaugh like 15 different ways for the dumbest of things, nobody's taken this serious. Nobody's, other than apparently Michigan State, who I'm not sure if this came from the athletic director, if it came from Harlan Barnett, but the rumor that they were not going to play this game, it hurt them more than that helped them. Like that was supposed to maybe embarrass Michigan. It just made Michigan State come across as soft. Right. And I feel bad for the players in that locker room, man. I mean, what is going on with their leadership in terms of coaching? The running in of plays so that Michigan can't quote unquote steal their signals. What are we doing? Yeah. Like talk about just like tying one arm behind your back. This is Michigan State, who's like a no huddle spread offense, and we're going back to Ted's era where they pass the play off to the wide receiver, have the wide receiver run it in. I mean, what is going on? Just flat out embarrassed yourself in an attempt to try and make Michigan look stupid. You made yourself look dumber than anybody in the room.
Well, I mean, the football team, the football program, you called it, man. It's in shambles right now. I mean, they got to clean house and start over. The underlying bigger issue though is the university. I mean, I love Michigan State as far as a college, but man, they've made some boneheaded moves, including somehow you saw the story about the posting on the scoreboard. We don't need to get deep into that, but how does that continue? How's this stuff continue to happen?
Right.
From what somebody tweeted, and this is perfectly laid out, Michigan State put a goose egg on the scoreboard, but it wasn't the worst thing shown on the scoreboard all night. I mean,
that's a good line.
That was the perfect encapsulation. Like you said, it's time to just cut bait and hit the reset button.
Yeah.
What is going on down there? It sucks, man. I mean, as much as I loved that kind of drubbing, I mean, we want to see this rivalry be something where it's two top teams, what it was in 2021. As much as that loss stung, that's a game you never forget. 2015, trouble with the snap. You never forget that. Yeah. And the fact that we're so far away from seeing a potential big-time matchup like that, it sucks. It's sad. Yeah. I mean, I'll never get sick of killing Michigan State, but if I had it my way, it's a great game every year, and it just wasn't that. I mean, you talk about McCarthy. The Heisman preseason Heisman hype is finally starting to show up on the stat sheet and on the screen. Since that Bowling Green game, he has been sensational. I mean, like you said, the running game really hasn't been great all year. It hasn't been great, which is a little concerning. But McCarthy has taken a step forward, and he's looking like he's the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Maybe the best quarterback in all college football, if we're being honest. Right. So I'm loving what I'm seeing on that front, but flat out, it's hard not to hover around this Michigan State program and keep talking about it because my God, they're stranded in the middle of the Pacific without a paddle. It's embarrassing.
No doubt. Before you jump in, Matt, I just got to throw this quickly out. You mentioned the Bowling Green game, Jared, and you don't need to go back and re-listen to that recording when I said he passed himself out of the Heisman chase, because he's back in it for sure.
Right. Which, after that game, that was probably a true statement, 3 interceptions. Now I see, there's obviously a ton of people just mostly on Twitter still trying to talk about Urban Meyer to Michigan State. People are throwing around a bunch of other coaching candidates. I don't know what is super intriguing right now about Michigan State. Yes, like you said, Ted, it is still, one of the best programs and universities in the Big Ten. But when you've got Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State rolling, Iowa and Wisconsin are still there, solid programs all the time. Nebraska, with Matt Rule, are they going to be able to turn it around? That could happen. Oh, yeah. And then you've got USC, Washington, Oregon, UCLA coming into the Big Ten. And you look at Michigan State's roster right now, and I know there's a transfer portal, and we see what Deion did out in Colorado and, other schools. But I don't know what would be so intriguing about Michigan State, unless it literally is if you're coming from a smaller program and you want to get into the Big Ten as a head coach and they throw a bunch of money at you. Okay, yeah, that could be it. But you talk about uphill battle. It's whoever comes in for Michigan State next year, especially, if they try and keep like Mark D'Antonio around as like a mentor or something like that, or some of these older, coaches. I think they just need to clean house and say, we got to start fresh and hope that all of our players don't bail on us. And yes, it's going to take 2 or 3 years, but that's just what it's going to be, because it's not looking good right now. But Michigan, they're every bit. I mean, they're number 1 in the country in SP plus, which is basically an adjusted stat to show, like, because everyone still says like Michigan hasn't played anyone. Well, that statistic adjusts for like opponent strength and everything. Michigan's number 1 in the country. JJ McCarthy has the best odds right now for the Heisman Trophy. They're heading into their bye week, mostly healthy. I think, they've got a few nagging, maybe some minor injuries, but they're going to have the bye week to get healthy. And then they head into that stretch run, 3 big games at the end of the year, Penn State, Maryland, then obviously Ohio State. I mean, I'm not gonna be like Jared and say like I'm not worried about those games.
No, you shouldn't be worried.
Penn State, Ohio State, you never know. I'm with you. I'm overly confident. I still think they could give Michigan a game, but there's no reason Michigan shouldn't be back in the playoff with how they're playing. I mean, they are just playing at such a high level.
Yeah.
Like they literally, like, I never thought this last year watching them. This year watching them, I'm like, this is legitimately like the top team in the country. I never thought that last year. Even after the Ohio State wins, I'd never felt that. This whole year, it just seems like a team with a purpose. Oh, and you throw in these investigations and all the bullshit they've had to deal with on the field. It's like it's a team that's playing inspired. I'll talk about the investigation in a second. I'll just tie a bow on what you said about Urban Meyer, Matt. I wrote this down because I was kind of thinking the same thing you're thinking. Like, what's he thinking watching this game? I think it's one of two thoughts. It's one, they are so bad, I'm never, ever going to go there. Or is it him saying, you know what, if I can just get there, there's no expectations. If I can beat Michigan just one time in, like, let's say for his first 4 years, they're going to like build a statue for him at Michigan State. So I don't know. I see it both sides. I think I lean toward him seeing that as like a dumpster fire that he wants to stay away from. But I mean, if I know one thing about Urban Meyer, pay the guy, he's probably going to come. So I don't think that's totally out the window yet. But what do you guys make? And last thing I'll say about the game, actually, Mike Sanders still.
Yes.
Gotta love him. I mean, favorite player. I was the first one to the Sanders still bandwagon, similar to Ted with Jared Goff, except I never jumped off of it like he did. So Sanders still just continues to make plays. The number 0, the fact that he was a stud wideout, now he's a stud defensive back, nickel corner. I love watching that guy every snap. When they're on defense, that's the guy I circle, and I watch him make plays. So cool to see him make 2 pick sixes, the play of the game. But as for this investigation, I'll just leave it up to you guys first. I don't want to taint the conversation. What do you guys make of it? Is this a legit concern? Where are you at with it?
Go ahead, Matt.
I don't think it's a legit concern. I mean, you never know what they're going to find. Like we've said with other coaches and other situations, we don't know what really is going on behind closed doors. So maybe there is something that they're doing. I don't think Jim Harbaugh, with the spotlight and bullseye that he has on him by the NCAA and everyone, that he would do something knowingly illegal. The whole stealing the signs thing, it's been laid out over and over again. We don't have to get into that picking up signs or trends from other teams and, adjusting your defense to that. That's just what you do in sports, not just college football, not just, whatever, everywhere. Basketball, baseball, it's just a part of playing sports. You scout, you see what other teams are doing, and you say, hey, every time they make this call, they run this way, or, whatever. So that part is a big old nothing burger, as a lot of people say. Are they sending people to other stadiums to scout in person? First of all, again, it's been laid out. It's just a ridiculous rule in general that's illegal by the NCAA. Like, a lot of people, like I saw Desmond Howard and other people saying, like, they had to go research that, and they just found out this week that the NCAA doesn't allow you to send in-person people to other games to scout opposing teams. That just is wild. But again, I don't think Harbaugh would knowingly do stuff illegal, knowing, like you said, Jared, the NCAA just seems to be out to get him. Paul Feinbaum, of all people, even said that it just seems like if this was any other coach, it wouldn't have been an NCAA investigation, since it was Jim Harbaugh and Michigan's at the top of the mountain right now, they're going to dig deep and try and find some sort of way to invalidate what Michigan is doing. I think it's just firing up the team. I think it's just going to drive them, and Harbaugh's going to want to get handed that national championship trophy by the NCAA, basically with a big middle finger.
Yeah.
Say,
how sweet would that be, man? That's for sure. Yeah. And it's painfully obvious. The NCAA is after Jim Harbaugh, you know, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you guys got to explain to me, and maybe our listeners that aren't aware exactly what happened. You kind of said it, you know, apparently Michigan, they were accused of sending a coach out to scout and try to pick up the signals from other teams, right? Now they just suspended the main guy. I don't have his name in front of me. Okay. Yeah. It's just with pay, but that's while the investigation goes on. From what you guys know, was he the one that was organizing it and sending somebody out to these different stadiums?
So that's allegedly.
Allegedly, right.
Allegedly. So he's in the recruiting department. He's a special assistant on the staff. Mm-hmm. But all the pictures of him, he's at Michigan's games.
Right.
So what's being said is that he has like a network of people that he is sending to other games. So he's a former Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Who basically
I love that detail about the whole thing.
It probably like an insane genius that can analyze video and really like break stuff down with the best of them. I think it's Harbaugh playing chess when other people are playing checkers. He's like, he knows this guy, and he's like, I'm going to hire the smartest person in the world that worked for the U.S. military, and I'm going to tell him, hey, learn what other coaches are doing and tell me, you know. So the accusation is that he's sending people to Rutgers, to Minnesota, to Georgia, you know, whatever. And then those people are either filming or something and then getting that stuff back to him, and he's breaking it down. Mm-hmm. I heard someone say, too, that they're saying that Michigan is having whoever it is, whether it's grad assistants or whoever, during the game, gather video, you know, from the TV feed or, you know, whatever, and then sending it to him. So at halftime, he can basically quickly, you know, look at stuff and break it down. But the thing is, every school does that. Every school does that. So I don't really know what the big
It's so dumb. I mean, the rule is apparently it's a new rule since 1994. Because they don't want teams that like the Central Michigans, the Eastern Michigans, who don't have the resources to be at an unfair advantage. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about? How about NIL? The fact that, you know, Central Michigan, who can't rub two pennies together for NIL, is competing against these Notre Dames of the world.
Right.
How is that fair? So it's just an entirely idiotic rule, dumb ass thing just in general. But flat out, here's where I'm at with it. I think Michigan and Harbaugh are screwed. I mean, it's hard not to see it that way when he literally got 4 games for essentially nothing. Mm-hmm. So this is maybe something, Matt, you're laying it out pretty well. Definitely probably a little bit against the rules. It's just being unblatantly honest here. Do I think it's worth this whole hubbub and Michigan State running in plays 1950s style and potentially not playing the game? I mean, what are we talking about? This is just flat out coaching at its finest. I mean, yes, it's a little bit maybe dirty. I don't view it, but again, when you the wolf or what's the saying I'm looking for? The wolf cried
wolf in sheepskin.
No, who was it? Little Red Riding Hood. When you're crying wolf 400 times, like the NCAA has against Michigan, it's like, dude, at some point, I'm like, I don't give a shit if this is the realest accusation in the world, and Michigan should be given the death penalty. I'm throwing it out the window for any sort of unbiased, fair investigation. Like you said, they don't even know what they're really looking at. But once you start investigating these schools and these teams, it's like you're going to find something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where I'm at. It's like this might be Harbaugh's last ride. The NCAA has done it. I'm sick of the NCAA. I want that freaking organization to be burned to the ground and replaced by the SEC and Greg Sankey and that whole commissioner. Yeah. But that might not happen. So I think where I'm at is let's just win this season. Let's win a damn national championship. Harbaugh, give him the middle finger on your way out. Go to the NFL, you know, spread your wings. And us as Michigan fans will appreciate what you did for us, but it looks like this might be the last ride. That's the way I view it. I seriously think we're screwed.
It could be. I mean, that could be how it plays out. You know, that this could be enough to push Harbaugh finally back. Kind of like, you know, what we've talked about with Beeline. John Beeline finally was like, I can't deal with everything that is going on with college basketball. So I've got to take a shot with the NBA. You know, maybe this is what finally pushes Harbaugh back, or it's the complete opposite. And he wants to rack up as many national championships as he can doing things his own way when he knows. I bet you he's found loopholes or he's found gray areas where, he knows he's not literally breaking the rules, but right, he's maybe pushing the limits a little bit by having this guy on his staff who can break down video and stuff. And because the pictures of him on the sidelines, you can tell like game action is over here and his eyes are always, right over there. So he's probably hired specifically for that. And if Harbaugh has dotted his I's, crossed his T's and said, this is not breaking any rules. We just have a guy on the staff who's the best in the world at doing this. If they're literally sending people, if they're doing the thing that is illegal, if they're sending people to Rutgers and East Lansing and other places to record video and do that kind of stuff, then sure. But I don't know how they're going to find that out either. Yeah. Like, are they is there a paper trail of like buying plane tickets and
it's
game
a laptop?
Tickets and,
once they said we're going to look at this guy's laptop, that's when I'm like, they're effed.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were doing this in-person thing or not, there's probably something against the rules that was done on that laptop. Like I said, I think you investigate any of these schools and you're going to find something. So it's a bummer, man. It sucks. Again, I don't know. I don't even want to comment on the actual wrongdoing or right doing because the NCAA has lost all credibility. They've lost all credibility. So any investigation they do, immediately, it's biased.
Yeah.
And because everything is coming across as biased. It's how many different ways can you go at one goddamn coach who it's not like he's out here, extorting these kids or something. Or, I mean, we've seen it with other head coaches where they're doing like prostitution rings and they're back coaching in a few years.
Right.
It's like, what is going on here?
The saddest part to me is you could be very right about this might be the last run for Jim at Michigan. And to me, it's not only sad being a Michigan fan and being a Harbaugh guy, but if I look at him and how he coaches, yeah, he had success in the NFL and he probably still can be successful in the NFL, but damn it, he's a college coach. You can tell he is a college coach. He loves it.
Yeah, and the way that, how he's obviously toned it back a little bit than when he came into to Michigan, but it's a different, it's like when Urban Meyer went to Jacksonville, dealing with professional grown men making more money than you is very different than coaching and recruiting college kids. So, you can tell he has fun and he loves Michigan. Obviously that's his whole life since he was a kid. So hopefully this doesn't push him away because they're set up really for a long run, but you have to wonder if this is part of the hang up with not giving him just a 10-year extension. Right. That's been talked about for so long. Like, why is Harbaugh not the highest paid coach in the Big Ten? Why does he not have the Tom Izzo basically, lifetime contract? So you have to wonder if this kind of stuff that's going on, if that's making Michigan say, we don't necessarily want to do it.
I'm telling you, I'm light at the end of the tunnel. Mark this down and for the receipts. He will get a season suspension. That's my opinion on this. I really think that's where this is heading. Fair, unfair, probably not. I mean, honestly, if we look at this, like this is probably worthy of like a 4-game suspension, in my opinion. Whatever this is, whether true, not, whatever, just take the 4-game suspension, move on. But given what that 4-game suspension, what that was for basically nothing at the start of the season, it's like they're gonna make this way bigger. That they're gonna make a mountain out of a molehill, and it's going to be like a season suspension. And when that happens, I think Harbaugh, it's like, F this, I'm out. So I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my gut.
It's a shame too, because you know darn well coaches like Nick Saban and the others have the same kind of stuff going on, but nobody's after them.
Here's what I've known. That's what I've been kind of waiting to hear. Where's Saban's comments on this? Where, it's Kirby Smart, some of these top coaches, I've heard nothing yet. So I'll be very curious to hear what they have to say about this outside of guys like Schiano, who have just been getting pounded by Michigan a million times. It's like, I don't even care what you have to say. Same thing with Michigan State. Let's hear it from some of these bigwigs who are on Harbaugh's level. If they say this is the worst thing that's ever happened in college football, hand up, suspend them.
Yeah. Well, we talked about he might go to the NFL. Let's talk a little bit after the NFL before we wrap this up. The Lions, a big stinker. We're recording this on Sunday, 38-6 to the Ravens. I don't think it's any huge surprise they lost the game, but I think the way they played, I don't know. Well, we're knocked down a notch anyway, but what are we thinking about this? Is this just an anomaly? And
I don't know, man. I've been saying it. I thought this defense was kind of standing on their head, really all of last year and for the majority of this year. I mean, Lamar Jackson, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 6 incompletions, literally toying with the defense.
Yeah.
The pass rush, non-existent, 0 sacks, 9.1 yards per play for the Ravens. I mean, it was a debacle offensively, defensively, and it was a really depressing debacle. I mean, I've had a lot of depressing Lions losses in my life, but I mean, we were talking about that this team, Ted, you were just about buying a Super Bowl ticket last week. Now I'm like, what even is this team? This is like a Dallas Cowboys-esque make playoffs. Maybe you eke out a win and then you lose to an Eagles or a 49ers. I don't know. It just really kind of put a sour taste in my mouth, and it's kind of making me rethink what we've thought this team was.
I'm not completely jumping off the ship like it sounds like Jared is. I think it's more like you said, anomaly. I think right now it's going to be more, in 6, 7, 8 weeks, we look back and almost chuckle at this game. It's going to be like an outlier on the schedule. It seems like every NFL team, this kind of stuff happens.
100%.
I mean, teams lay an egg, whether it's coming off a bye week or, coming off a short week because they played on a Thursday or, something ridiculous. This was a tough game too, going on, they were at Tampa Bay last week and now they're at Baltimore this week against Lamar Jackson, like you said, who's actually playing pretty well. Ravens defense is no joke. So it was a tough game. And I think going in, Vegas had the Ravens winning the game anyway. So, if you're hanging your hat on that a little bit, they were not expected to win in that sense. So, but kind of like what you said, Ted, the way it happened was a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be like, is it showing us more of what this team is about, or is it just going to be an outlier? I guess that remains to be seen. They play Monday night, next week against the Raiders. If they go in, win that game, and they're 6-2 going into their bye week, we forget about this Ravens game. Now they go lose on Monday night and they go into their bye week on a 2-game losing streak. That's going to leave a sour taste in our mouth. I think the defense, got exposed a little bit. Same with against Seattle. I still think they're a really good unit. I still waver on Jared Goff. I really seriously, I tried not to because he has been so good. And people were talking about him being MVP and all this kind of stuff with how he was playing. Rightfully so. But at teams, I'm surprised more teams don't play him the way Seattle and the Ravens did. You pressure him up the middle and he's just not the same quarterback. He's not mobile. He can't scramble. And he gets happy feet. How many times today did he get pressure and just like throw it at some dude's feet at the line of scrimmage? I don't like even Stafford he's not Lamar Jackson, but Stafford knew how to maneuver in the pocket and scramble a little bit. So I'm not out on Jared Goff. I'm not saying he's trash, trade him, anything like that. But if they can host playoff games, if they're at Ford Field in that nice, no wind, no weather, Goff is going to light anyone up. So
I guess I don't know. I don't put too much of this on Goff. I'm
not putting it on him. I'm just still like,
right.
He didn't have the greatest game, but by the time they were trying to get the offensive going, they're exactly.
And I mean, no Montgomery. Maybe one of the biggest tells of me of this game, offense. I'm not worried about the offense. I think the offense is going to be good. I mean, you're going to have some duds. The defense, like we laid out, we don't have to rehash the Hutchinson and the pass rush debate every week.
Right.
We need the trade. There's a trade to be made on that defensive line. I hate to say it. There's is.
Yeah.
If you really want to compete for Super Bowl, if you really want to try to host some playoff games, you need a legit Pro Bowl pass rusher to go alongside Hutchinson.
Yeah.
That's just flat out my opinion. And my biggest maybe concern on the offensive end, I know I'm not saying be worried about the offense, but they threw 53 passes today. I mean, Williams dropped a touchdown pass. First, let me just say it's incredible how far he's made it in his NFL journey, flat out being unable to catch a ball. It's like he's succeeded in spite of being able to catch the ball as a wide receiver. It's unbelievable. He also doesn't seem to totally understand how to run a deep route. I mean, why is he like getting turned around every time they throw it to him? It's like, what is going on with these routes where you can't seem to track the ball? I don't know. I'm worried about Williams. I mean, he didn't have a catch on 53 pass attempts, and this is supposed to be a round number 1 wide receiver to really kind of take this offense to another level. I thought Gibbs was actually pretty good today.
Yeah.
It's hard to really even gauge it because they were out of the game as soon as it started, but for what it's worth, I thought Gibbs was great, but Williams, what was that?
Yeah. Yeah, what it showed me, hopefully they figured out something with Gibbs. I mean, you know, giving him some swing passes, trying to get him the ball in space as opposed to just running him up the middle. You know, that's David Montgomery. That's the running back that he is. Jameson Williams, I don't know. I'm going to be very, very, very patient with him because I just watched him absolutely destroy teams in college, you know, but it's starting to, yeah, like you said, like it almost looks like he never really truly learned how to run routes. He just was faster than everyone. So he just ran by everyone, which is cool. But again, and I'm not piling on Goff. Goff isn't the best deep ball thrower.
No.
You know, a lot of his deep balls do kind of flutter or float a little bit. Even that touchdown Jameson Williams had last week, you know, was a pretty bad throw.
Again, but I don't know if that's Goff. It's like how many different ways is Williams? It's like today on his drop, it's like he's like turning right, then turning back left. It's like is Ben Johnson just telling him to sprint straight? Like I don't know. It's just confusing. Yeah. And the fact that Goff, I mean, say what you will about Goff, and you know, obviously not the best mobility in terms of like thinking the game and like that type of thing. The fact that he doesn't target Williams often is worrisome. In my opinion, makes you think he's not totally understanding the offense. He's not trustworthy. And we already know the drop issue. I'm pretty sure he's already got more drops than Larry Fitzgerald had in his entire career.
Right.
Just with wideouts, I don't think catching the ball is something you can necessarily make into a skill. I know Amon-Ra has a thing where he catches off the jugs machine every day to practice. I mean, at this point in your career, if you're Williams, if you're just flat out unable to catch the ball, I don't think that's something he's going to gain, in year 5 of his career. I just think it's kind of is what it is. And flat out, he just doesn't have great hands.
Well, that's definitely what we're seeing right now. But I think we do have to give him a little bit of time. I mean, he's fast. He is fast. I mean, there's been NFL players and wide receivers that have improved their catching ability. Let's put it that way. We know Amon-Ra is the top dog as far as Goff's go-to guy. So if you got a good second and third to go with him, you'll be all right. I don't know if he's going to be the answer, but I'm not gonna get too panicky about today. As we've said, they're gonna have 4 losses before this thing's all said and done. They're gonna win their division. They're gonna make it to the playoffs, and then start over. Let's see what happens. See if you're playing your best ball at that time, and then that's when you make your run. But
that's
just a bad day.
Yeah, that's the one saving grace is luckily the division isn't all that tough this year. So as long as the Lions can't just completely fall apart, they should be able to win the division. I know we were all pretty excited, but it's not like they were about to go 16-1. You know, like you said, they're going to end up probably 3-4 losses. They'll probably lay another egg in the season, maybe against the Bears or something like that. But
I do think it does shake down right now, perfect schedule-wise. I mean, it's a pretty poor schedule the rest of the way. Then they've got an extra day to prepare for that Monday night game. It's going to be at home, so it's going to be insanity at Ford Field. And then they have that bye week to get healthy. So it's not all bad.
Like I said, if they can beat the Raiders on Monday night, 6-2 going into the bye, I think if you would have asked us at the beginning of the season if we would take that, we would have all said, we'll take that.
100%. I hope you guys are right. I don't know.
Hope so.
I still
if they lose, then it's completely different.
I'll just say this. I really worry about the defensive unit. We'll just leave it at that. I hope you guys are right. I hope it's just an anomaly, but I've been worried about them for 2 years now. So I don't know.
Well, before we sign off, have you been pretty impressed with the defense until today? I mean, I know we talked about the rush, but overall the defense has played pretty good this year, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they have. I mean, they've been depleted by injury, which is we got to throw that out there. I mean, a lot of NFL teams are, but yeah, they've looked better. Again, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think the Buccaneers are very good. They lost today. I mean, you kind of go back and look at these wins. Obviously, Kansas City, that's a great win. I know they were banged up too, but I don't know. Just a couple of the teams outside of Kansas City, the Seahawks, and now the Ravens, the playoff teams they faced, I mean, they've been lit up. Absolutely lit up. So not even like, oh, they put 31 on us. No, it's like complete lit up. Like, I mean, 35, and then the Ravens. I mean, if they wanted to, it felt like they could have put up 50 today. So I don't know.
They were doing any and everything they wanted to.
And
It
just
was
wide open
pretty good.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was on. It's like it was like almost like blown assignments. It wasn't just this team is better. It's like a fullback wide open, nobody within 30 yards of him. I mean, what's going on out there?
Yeah.
I texted some friends. I was like, this must be what it feels like to be a Spartans fan watching that game last night.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right.
All right. Well, boys, we've done it again. We made it through another podcast. Any final thoughts on anything before we sign this thing off?
No, just I'm excited to hear how these playoffs shake out. We got, we laid it out a little bit, but a bunch of area teams, and a number of them set up to make some noise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just tie it up. I mean, I love getting opinions on the board. I threw mine out. I think Harbaugh's going to have a year suspension. If you guys had to say, I know it's still very early in this investigation, if you had to predict, how do you see it kind of playing out?
If I had to predict, I don't think anything's going to come of it.
I hope.
I think they're not going to really find anything, and it's just going to kind of go away.
Yeah, I hope you're right on that. I don't know. Where there's smoke, sometime there's fire, but I don't think it'll be a full year suspension. But I'm just concerned, or I'm just confused on what they would find on him. You said the laptop, Jared. So are you saying there'll be like an email from Jim telling him what to do?
No, I mean, like Matt said, it's like I don't know if it's flights, is it emails with his guys who, if he has other underlings going to these games. I mean, they're going to find if it was going down, they're going to figure it out.
But right? Does Harbaugh, does he for sure take the fall if one of his assistants?
I'm pretty sure that from what there's some rule, I don't know the exact, but it's like the head coach, if it's going on in your program, like you can't excuse yourself and say you had no idea.
I got
that lack of institutional control or something like that
right.
They always say, like,
might be
if you're the head coach, you have to know everything.
I mean, we saw it with like Pat Fitzgerald in Northwestern. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he said he didn't know what was going on, but it's like, oh, your program, you're done.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I hope that's not the case, but stay tuned. All right, fellas, let's call it a podcast. This has been 286 of the 3 Point Podcast, presented by the Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Make sure you sign up for a membership, get healthy, and get in shape. And you can get more details at memorialhealthcare.org. Also, thank you to AZee Branding Solutions. By the way, guys, I'm going to be representing 3 Point Podcast on their podcast this week. They're going to have me come into the office and chat about what we do. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Nice.
I'll talk nice about Matt, and we'll see about Jared.
Ted's going to bring some receipts.
Yeah.
Also want to thank Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Thanks to Jeff Bott, the head football coach at Perry. He's got the Ramblers in the playoffs for the first time, and want to wish him the best of luck against Pewamo, Westphalia. The Z92.5 Game of the Week coming up Friday night. I'm going to hazard a guess. It will probably be Corunna, but if it's Chesaning or New Lothrop or somebody else, we will have the Corunna game on the 3 Point Podcast Facebook Live radio site as our backup. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.